Hey everyone, I'm Raina and welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about home yoga practice and just some tips and tricks on how to actually make one, how to stick with it. And while these are kind of specific within this video to a yoga practice, I think a lot of these tips can really be applied to kind of any habit that you're trying to form. So let's get started. But before we get started, I guess I should plug some stuff. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, subscribe. I do weekly yoga classes that are anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes. And if you like those, you may also like my Patreon, where I do 6 full-length yoga classes a month, as well as workshops where I break poses down, Q&As, chats about yoga philosophy, and just like general other fun community stuff. And so the links are below. Follow me on Instagram and check out my TikTok if you haven't found me via those things already. All right, let's get into the tips. Tip number 1, schedule it. Schedule your time, schedule your practice. It doesn't need to be at the same time every day. It doesn't even need to be at a specific time. But if you can say, when I wake up, before I go to bed, 12 o'clock, the afternoon, give yourself some time frame. Sometimes being more specific can be more helpful. So saying at 7 o'clock, I'm going to do Snoop. Sometimes being more specific can be helpful. So if you were to say 7 o'clock, I'm doing this class, and handle it just as if you were going into a studio to take a class or into wherever to do something at a scheduled time, it may be a little bit easier to hold yourself accountable. So schedule your time and be realistic with it. You know what your schedule looks like for the most part. Don't try to schedule a 90-minute class every single day unless that's actually realistic for your schedule, your life, your body. Give yourself the means for success. Set yourself up for success for these attainable, kind of reachable goals if you're looking to stick with something. So schedule it and be realistic. Tip number 2 is to make a ritual of it. So along with scheduling it, take a little time before your practice and set your space up. Sometimes it takes reminding ourselves that all space is sacred. Everything around us is kind of sacred, holy land if we can tap into those energies. And so take a few minutes. Maybe you meditate, maybe you kind of create this energetic bubble, maybe you light some candles and dim the lights and turn on some music. Whatever helps you create the container to hold your practice for that day can be really valuable. So find some things that feel really good, that kind of create these mental signals like it's time for me, it's time for my practice, it's time for my breath, for my wellness, and just start to do them every single time if you can and if you have time. For me, I like to light some incense. I don't need to change the lighting. I don't need to put music on. Light some incense, take a few breaths, and it really signals to me like, okay, this is what we're doing, because I'm used to those smells in yoga studios. I grew up with incense. It's something that I really personally enjoy. So figure out what something simple like that could be for you and start to implement it into your daily routine. My next tip is to celebrate your wins. And so whether you spend 90 minutes or 10 minutes exploring your yoga practice, enjoy. Celebrate, congratulate yourself for doing it that day. Just because you may feel like you didn't do enough, didn't what you were supposed to do, did a soft practice, did a meditation, did breath work instead, maybe you journaled or read some yoga philosophy, these are all part of the practice. And so I really encourage you to find these small ways to implement the practice into your life and release the expectation that yoga has to be a 60-minute class. It absolutely does not. And so celebrate the wins, start to build those good feelings around your yoga practice as this whole thing and not just the physical part. Give yourself space and time to enjoy, to really sit in the efforts of your practice, whatever it looks like that day. My next tip kind of relates back to my how to start a yoga practice video, and I will link that below. If you haven't seen that, I recommend checking it out. But think about your why. If you already thought about a why, maybe reconnect to it. Thinking about a why or setting an intention can lead you again to those teachers who really will help you dive deep and grow in your practice. But figuring out your intention or your why can also help keep you on your path. So when you're feeling kind of messy, if things are confusing, if you're not really finding the time to do your practice, you may have lost the motivation. You may have lost that intrinsic motivation, the reason that you keep going back to your mat or that you keep setting time aside to meditate. And so figure out your why, write it down, take a picture, whatever it is, and find a way to hold it dear. My next tip kind of goes hand in hand with your why, but it's to document your practice. And you don't need to film or record anything like that. After you practice, whatever that practice is, take a few minutes and maybe write down how you feel. You can voice memo it. You can post a little story on your Instagram, just saying like, I practiced and this is how I feel. So that the days when maybe you're not feeling it, you can look back at this documentation of all the good things and all the benefits that you get from your practice and remind yourself like, oh, okay, here's what I'm doing, here's how it could make me feel, and maybe you find a few minutes and find that motivation, or maybe, you know what, it's not in the cards for that day, and that's okay. Because that brings me to my last tip, which is above all, be kind to yourself. Be compassionate. This isn't a game to win. This isn't something you master. Yoga is a practice, it's a path, and it is a system to help you kind of live in a unified, compassionate, and aware way. And so there is no end game here. There's no end game. This is a place for you to explore, to inquire within yourself, to find some calm and to find some peace of mind. And so if one day you don't get to your mat, or one day you miss a meditation, you don't do something that you scheduled, it is okay. You are enough just as you are, and your practice of yoga will help show you that. It will help you find all the goodness that's within you that can sometimes be hard to see when we have all this other shit clouding our vision. So be kind, be compassionate to yourself, and give yourself the grace and the space to explore. So that is all I have for you. If you like these tips, you can like this video. I also made a little kind of infographic slide series with these tips if you are more of a reader than a listener, and those are on my Instagram. I will link all of that below. If you have any questions or any feedback, please leave it in the comments below. I'm always making new content, and it's really based off what you all are asking for. So let me know what you like, and I will see you next time.